Welcome back to Let the Journey Begin. I'm your host, Hilary Roberts, alongside my co-host, Jason Waller.
Hi, Hilary.
Hey, Jay.
How are you?
I am fantaculous. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How's the new puppy treating you?
I love her. She's precious. She's learning. She's good. Yeah, and she's growing like a weed. Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
I love it. I love it. How's your week been?
It's been awesome. It's just been great. Labor Day, just went to the animal sanctuary where they have wild lions and tigers and all kinds of animals, and it was hot but amazing.
Right. No,
it's called the Wildlife Sanctuary of Texas. They also have one in Colorado. Yeah.
Nice. No, I've been spending a lot of quality time with my family, which has been very refreshing and very rewarding. You know, it's just that quality time that you get is incredible. And just the gifts of sobriety and, you know, what my life looks like today is I could never have imagined it, many years ago. So I'm just in a place of gratitude. I'm actually very calm, cool, and collective today. So, but I'm excited to, dive into our guests, and I'm glad to be back because I know we weren't on here. I wasn't on here last week. So let's hit this thing off, huh?
Today, we are joined by Lisa Holste. Lisa is the owner and master stylist at Posh, the Salon in Denver, Colorado, my hometown, where I was born, and has been sober for 12.5 years. As a woman with a lot of experience and success in sobriety, we are very pleased to bring her on to hear her story. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's an honor.
How you doing, Lisa?
I'm great, Jason. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. Well, we're very, very grateful that you are here. And how'd you hear about the foundation, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I came across your show, The Hills, and you guys had filmed a fundraiser, and it caught my eye, and I looked it up, and I sent an email asking how can I help. I love seeing people promote sobriety, however it may be, and something about it just grabbed me. So I reached out, and here I am telling my story.
I'm so glad you're here. Oh my gosh. And from Colorado, that is just awesome.
It's cool to, see that that's the point of this, right? And raising awareness and trying to spread hope and give back to people. So, it's really cool that you are here with us today. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, is to bring, awareness to this. And it's obviously it's amazing to have guests such as yourself. So grateful you are here. I love that you're a hairstylist. We were talking before the show that, my wife is in that space as well. And I'm excited to dive into your story.
Great.
Me too. So we ask a very intense question to all of our guests. Mm-hmm. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to do hair. I remember my mom bought me the big Barbie head, which I bet Jason doesn't know what that is, but it was
whoa. Of course I do.
Okay. It was a large head of a Barbie that had, you could put makeup on her and do her hair. And I was always fascinated with it. And when I told my mother I wanted to go to hair school, that didn't go over so well as a senior in high school. So I did dabble in college a bit. But when I walked into school, and I love it. I've been doing it for 31 years, and I now have my own business. And it was what I was meant to be. It was definitely in my system as I was a child.
Oh, I love that.
That's so rad. So I'm guessing you got the Barbie head at a very young age, but you wanted to pursue this all the way up until like you said, and through your later years in high school, and you went to college. But so this is something that you've been manifesting since a very young age. What were some of the things that you were wanting to go into, or what were the things that you were exploring during your college time?
I actually signed up for journalism. I thought it would be fun to be, like a newscaster or reporter. And it has actually benefited me because I do a lot of local media here in Denver. So it's kind of funny, like you're talking about manifesting, and I've always followed my intuition more than my logic. Sometimes
Right.
that's not worked for me because maybe I was using at the time and thought it was my intuition. And I think we all understand that. But so as I've been clean and sober for 12.5 years, it's unbelievable how my life has, oh my gosh, like when I did hair in the past, I was dealing with a lot of people that partied, including a first marriage, married to an alcoholic. And I never thought my life would be what it is today. And I never thought I'd be that person that would say I had a problem, which I'm sure will unfold in my story today with you guys. But so anyways.
Well, let's take it back though, right? So, I mean, I appreciate you sharing that. So, you're wanting to pursue this career as being a hairstylist, but it sounds like there was a couple bumps along the road. Do you mind sharing kind of your first interaction with substances and where this ended up taking you?
Of course, happy to. I grew up around a lot of substance abuse. Mostly alcohol was a big thing in my family, and it's been a generational thing.
Right.
Goes way back. And I remember seeing and hearing things being discussed with the adults in my family and lots of turbulence and uncomfortable things. And as a kid, that's, it made a real big impact on me. So I always said to myself, I will never be a drinker. I was afraid of it. I would, even in high school, I would hang out with a lot of, I will call them partiers back in the day. But I mean, at my prom, we had an 8-ball in my limousine. And I look back at 12 kids in 12th grade now, and I'm thinking, oh my God, like there's an 8-ball in my limo, and that's an 18-year-old, and how on earth? But I didn't do the drugs. I was around the people that did them. They were my family outside of my family. And I was afraid to use them because I saw things that happened with people using them. So it's crazy that I eventually turned to alcohol in my life years later. Never thought that would be me.
Oh man, I wish I could say the same for me. When I was 18, I was probably the one supplying all the drugs. But that being said, so when was your first? So I mean, it sounds like there's obviously a lot of fear that was driven from you from a young age, and that you noticed there was the family dynamic and things where you're like, I don't want to be associated or connected with that, but inevitably you ended up falling into that trap. What ended up happening?
I married young, and I married one of those people from high school that was using, and I was madly crazy in love. And he decided to tell me one day that he thought he would go to rehab, and because of me. And this is where my codependency came in. But I thought that was pretty cool that this person fell in love with me and wanted to change his life and decided going to rehab would do that. So I was introduced to recovery probably around 19 years old, where I was attending family programs and also dealing with really the circumstances of severe drug and alcohol abuse, being on the partner side.
No, so you obviously, got married at a young age, were connected with your significant other. He was struggling a lot, and you still weren't using at this time, correct?
Correct. I did not use. I was afraid to do that. I needed to be in control. And being in control meant that, someone in that relationship had to be in control. And I was that person, and using would have been bad.
When did that control end?
When I decided to leave the situation, and I was 25 years old, and that was very young when I look back, but I had never dated, and I hadn't, I'd always been in this serious relationship with one person. I wasn't a big dating, flirting kind of gal. And I remember vividly drinking out with my friends because I was single at the time very quickly. And the buzz that I received, it was all so weird. Like I got this buzz that I was like, this is why people drink. This is why people drink. This turns off all the fear. This turns off all the insecurity. And I became this like super cool, I thought, fun, easy to be around. Everyone included me in all these social things. And I come to find at 52 years old, I am now, I have social anxiety. So that was my medicine. And that became like my best friend and all the things I was afraid of.
Was your first drink at 25?
No, I had a little bit here and there, but to be like officially drunk, like
right.
That was, I started getting like drunk when I was about 25, 20, like drinking to get a buzz or drinking to catch a high, drinking to be
To get intoxicated, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's fascinating. I don't know if you know this, but I don't know where you were dabbling and what age you were, but there's a pretty crazy statistic that if you don't drink or use by the age of 21, you have a 90% chance of never having an addiction issue. Again, there's still that 10% chance. But it's fascinating to see where this took you. And it sounds like there was a lot of self-discovery that you were still trying to figure out. And also you kind of grew up too quick and we're almost kind of going back and experiencing some of those things that you may have missed out on. Right. So where did this ultimately end up taking you before, where did this end up taking you? And what was that turning point when you're like, God, I have to change the way I'm living. And you had this moment of clarity where you're like, okay, enough's enough.
My drinking career started at 25 and I got sober at 39. So, I progressed incredibly fast. I do believe that women, this is my belief, it's not a fact, that I think women process alcohol differently than men. I'm very petite. Yeah. I'm a very small girl. And just to make a quick reference, I was in Cabo at one point with a bunch of girlfriends and I was about 30. This is a year before I quit drinking. And I was with a group of large men and I was married, by the way, and he was not with me. He was back in Denver. So I was pounding all day. I would manage my trip. How much can I drink during the day? How much can I drink at night? I mean, it was just this whole career. And I remember this large guy looking at me and he goes, "Where does it all go?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You pound the guys. Where does it all go?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
Right.
And I was married. So I was married again. I married my husband that I'm with now. I've been with him for 20 years.
Wow.
And thank you. And he is exactly the opposite of my first husband. So doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, just doesn't like it, doesn't understand any of it. He's like, "Why the hell would you do this?" And I'm like, okay, I'm not perfect. A lot of people can be. Okay. So I am an addict or an alcoholic. But so I decided, because my husband told me one day, he's a very good provider. He's a very good man. He is trustworthy. He's a good person. He's everything I could have asked for. And I remember being really hungover one day and I was so sick. And that's what I do not miss either, by the way, are those hangovers. Ugh. And he started crying and he was not a crier and he still isn't. And I said, "What is wrong with you?" And he's like, "I can't do this anymore." I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "I can't watch this anymore." And we filed for a divorce. And when I say we filed, I guess I can only say this much. We had the papers signed for a divorce, and we did not file the papers. And the reason that happened is we were in therapy, and our therapist said to us, our couples therapist said, "Lisa, I need you to quit drinking for 90 days. And I want to see what happens in this relationship when you quit drinking for 90 days. And I was livid. And I told this guy he didn't know what he's talking about. He didn't know what a real alcoholic was. Because I'm comparing my alcoholism to what I was married to before. So I didn't have a DUI. I hadn't been hospitalized. I hadn't had all these big traumas. And I've learned so much about my disease because I had that 90 days. I was like, "Oh, I can show you. I can prove to you. I don't have to drink. I had this whole big ego attitude, and I was lividly mad. And I remember my friends telling me, "Why would he make you do that? You don't have a problem." But I did it. And that was when I was 30. I still quit drinking. So this was 2003 because I quit drinking 2004. And the day of 91, when I was okay, you can have a drink at day 91, because obviously that's what the deal was. I was out there so fast. I could not wait. And I did white knuckle it for 90 days. I went to meetings because my friend was in the meetings, and I had so much time on my hands that I was like, what the hell am I going to do with all this time on my hands?
Right.
I really was. I was like, drinking was such a big deal. It took a lot of work and effort to do that.
It's a full-time job.
Oh, it was, yeah. And so I went to meetings for entertainment, and I'd be sitting there. So they'd say, my name is, and I'd say, my name is Lisa. And I wouldn't say anything else. I would just say, just here visiting with my friend. And day 91, that was October. And my drinking changed significantly. And it was so hard to get drunk the first time. And my drunk, I'll call it, after that was so dark. I was drinking by myself. I was drinking in my office. I was, receiving wine from clients as gifts, and I would hide them upstairs and drink them by myself. And I was drunk, but it was a different drunk. So my chemistry changed. And I remember hearing about that. Like when people quit and then they go back out, how different the chemical, like it's just going out, how different it is than what it was before. I just couldn't catch the drunk that I used to get. Mm-hmm. It was just a pathetic kind of thing. Like I was vomiting in my bed and I was hungover all the time, and it was very isolating and I didn't want to be drinking in public. I had a whole thing about my image.
You did the 90 days and you went back out, and obviously it progressed immediately. What was going on with your husband?
Completely isolating from me. We had no relationship. That's when the divorce thing was discussed. And I would lie to him blatantly. I'd have a mug of wine at night.
Right.
And he'd be like, "Are you drunk?" And I'd be like, "No, I'm not drunk." And you're drunk. And he's like, "What's in that mug?" And I'm like, "Coffee." And he's like, "Let me see." I'm like, "Why would you want to see? You don't believe," it was just, you look back and you're just like, oh my God, it was full of wine.
So
100%.
let me ask you this, and
Sure.
I appreciate all that you're sharing. What was your moment of clarity? What was the turning point when you're like, so you're facing possible divorce, your drinking had changed. So how long did that period last? And then when did you no mas, I can't do this anymore?
My higher power definitely took over and stepped in. I'm very grateful he did. And I went on a trip, a girls' trip. I say that so many times, it's like, geez. And I was sitting watching the ocean, journaling, why am I unhappy? Why am I unhappy? And I was at this friend's wedding, and I just need this time alone. And then my girlfriend that was getting married came into my room and said, hey, she was in recovery. And she said, when I get back to Denver, I'm going to do my inventory. Do you want to do it with me? And I was like, ugh, no, in my head. But it did sound appealing for some reason. And I got back to Denver and had my last drunk on January 1st by myself in my little upstairs office area. And I was going to meet her at a meeting in the morning. And I knew I was going to do this. And my husband didn't believe me. And, everyone got tired of me saying I was going to quit drinking. And so I literally had a panic attack at my house before I went to this meeting. And this meeting was it was far away from my house because I was so embarrassed and I didn't want to know anybody in that meeting. And if anyone I saw in that meeting knew me, I was going to be just horrified. Mm-hmm. And I went to that meeting. That's where I went for quite a long time. And that's where I said that I was an alcoholic. And when that came out of my mouth, that was not me. Wow. I just remember sitting there, and it wasn't at the first meeting that I said it, but maybe a few meetings later. And I said, my name is Lisa. And all of a sudden, I am an alcoholic came out. And I was like, oh, to myself. I just outed myself. Now it's real. And I did not say it. It was not Lisa saying that. It was something bigger. And
did you not go to treatment or anything? You basically went to, support groups and were able to sustain that way?
I did not go to rehab. I had been around a lot of rehab because of my first relationship, but I knew what to do. I mean, right. In that, I didn't detox. I didn't get sick. I don't know why. I really honestly am one of those people that will say I surrendered, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it myself. And the first year was very, very hard. It was very, very difficult. I had to really stay away from people and go and be around those people that knew what to do. And I had to listen to them, and I did. And here I am 12 and a half years later. Knock on wood,
So
I've never
rad.
gone out. Thank you. I have never gone out and picked up. I've been dry. So with that, I don't know if that's something we discussed, but
Yeah.
that is a real thing.
Let's talk
I
about
never
that.
heard.
So what I know what dry means. What for our listeners? What is dry in your eyes?
For me, just quitting my substance of choice was not, I thought that was going to change everything.
Right.
And it did significantly make things better in my life, but my recovery is an emotional recovery. So my disease, I call it disease, is more emotional, and I was not doing meetings. I was not connecting with the spot. I was doing the least possible because I figured I wasn't picking up. So why the hell do I need to go and do all this crap?
Right.
Quote unquote. And it was very, very, very uncomfortable. I have friends that were relapsing, and it looked really fun. It sounded like I could do that and be okay. Maybe I wasn't an alcoholic, but I called a girl one day because everyone told me this. If there's somebody you see and you want to know how they, like, why are they happy, or what's the saying? Jason, you might know this.
Yeah. If you basically want to connect with somebody, you basically want to look and connect with somebody that has what you want. So you can, yeah. I mean,
Yes.
it's finding somebody that has what you want.
Yeah.
Yes. And I did see someone that had less sobriety than me, which was
Right.
also something I wasn't sure about. And I prayed on it, and I called her up and I said, hey, can you help me out? And I'm miserable and I'm not doing things I should be doing. And I want what you have. That's what it is.
Oh.
Yeah.
And she's, what was really cool about this girl, and she's become one of my dearest friends, is she said, wow, because ego, I think, can happen even after you're sober, and it can happen in the rooms and stuff. And yet, for me, I felt I had to be really careful about who I found to inventory with again.
Yeah.
And I did that with this woman, and she said, Lisa, I need to pray on that. I can't just say yes or no. Like, she couldn't say, yes, I will do this with you. She said, I have to ask God and pray on this. And I was like, whoa, she's really the real deal. And
I
she
love
did
that you
pray
bring
on
that
it.
up, because that's huge. But I also, what I hear you saying is there's a big difference between being abstinence of drugs and alcohol versus living a life in recovery. And, our drugs and alcohol have been our solution for so long, that we, once we remove that, we think that we'd be fixed. But really the real issue lies underneath that, and that's ourselves. And so it's imperative that we have some form of structure, some form of routine, something that creates safety, and that can hold us accountable, and that we can deal with this on a day-to-day basis, right? So I think, again, being dry is when you're not utilizing any form of drugs or alcohol, but you are basically have the same manifestations and or behaviors as if you were drinking or using. So I think it's really important to talk about that. I think that's very commendable of you, and a lot of people, that's one of the first stages. It's like a domino that falls, that takes you into the direction of relapse, unless you can be able to identify that and reach out and do what you did. So that's incredible. But now to the more interesting and not more interesting, but the more fun and the things that we love to share with people is solution, and how do we stay in sobriety? How do we live a life in recovery? So what does like a day-to-day look like for you? Maybe we can start with what it looked like for you in the beginning stages. But now, as life has grown, as you've been able to establish a business and you've got a lot going for you. If you can share some of that with us, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Life is so different now. I get up, I'll just give you my daily, because it's what I need to do, and I love it. So I get up early. Really early, and I meditate. And I actually, before I even meditate, I pray, and I pray to God to basically, what is it you want from me today? And God, what do you want me to do today? And lead the way, instead of me coming into a situation. Like, my job is very high stress, and I learned this from my friend, is God, please walk ahead of me into this situation and basically lead the way, clean the way, make it bless my day so that I can see what you want me to see. and be who you want me to be, your will. What is God's will? Not my will. My will is not, that is the really hard one too for me that I had to learn, was my will and giving that will up and having God's will be my leader. So I pray and I meditate and I have, a nice coffee and I sit with my dog, and I really need to start quiet. And then I go to work and I have a really fun job. I've tried to retire a few times because I can, and I'm grateful that I can, but I've really come to find that it gives me a purpose every day to get up and go and like be around people, and I enjoy it. Like I don't have this like anxiety about it anymore. I feel so confident in who I am and what I've become, because I'm not lying anymore, and I'm not telling secrets or keeping secrets anymore, and I'm living an honest life, and honesty is really helped me with that. My mentor, I have had 4 of those, and I'm with a new one, and she kicks my butt, and she really makes me, I'm doing another, I'm doing a study again, which I've done now 4 or 5 times maybe in my sobriety. And that's been really interesting doing it again from January until now, because it started during the, COVID. And I needed something pretty big then, with not being able to go into the rooms like we were able to before. So I had some Zoom meetings, and I have them every week. And then I go to my meetings every Saturday, and my mentor, boy, she tells me what to do, and I listen to her, even though I've been away from my alcohol as long as I have. She's keeping me emotionally sober. Helping.
So I want to ask you something before we ask our last question, which is, when did you start this amazing salon that you have? And tell us about that, with that dream.
Oh, that's interesting. Interesting because I started it while I was drinking, and I started it and it was very sloppy, and it was very ego driven. And the disasters of relationships falling apart. So that was 17 years ago that I started my business, that I opened my salon. Since I've been sober, it's so cool. Like the people I hire are different. The people, the energy is different. And it's only, I believe, because I have taken care of my side of the street, It's made me mature in how I talk to people, how I react to other stylists. And a lot of them, there are people that need a little help like I used to. So I've seen some really cool things, and I've helped. I tell my story to people where they're like shocked. They're like, what? And I'm like, I don't drink. And they're like, why? And then all the, they start asking more and more. And Jason, that's why when I saw you guys doing your fundraiser on that show, I was like, that's so great, because there's another side, and the shame in being an addict or an alcoholic is really what I think keeps people in using. And it's shame.
That's why we're trying to smash it.
Painful.
That's why we're grateful you're here.
Hopefully helped you. Happy to help. Love it.
100%. Incredible. I appreciate you sharing your journey. I appreciate you being so open, vulnerable, and there's a lot of cherries that you provided for us to be able to pluck out and be able to utilize on a day-to-day. So very grateful that you are here. Congratulations on the 12 and a half years of sobriety. Yeah. Keep it up. But if you were to give our listeners one final piece of advice, and it would be an action for the day, what would it be?
Pray. Get on your knees.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Get on your knees and ask what to do instead of doing what you think you should do. Before you take action, pause. Get on your knees and do it then. I hope that's something that, okay.
Are you kidding? That's amazing.
Wonderful. If people want to find you, well, tell us where your salon is, and then on social media.
If you guys want to reach out and share your story with me, it's Lisa Holste on Instagram, LasaHols as in Sam, TE.
Boom.
Girl,
Lisa,
you're so amazing.
Phenomenal.
Aw, thanks, guys.